Hey guys, how do you handle loading in your Unity projects? It's not a secret that almost every game needs to do a few things before letting players play. Most often, those things are loading or downloading some data, generating some terrain, and so on. The order of the operations may be important, and we should be able to display the progress to the player. AlchemyBow.Core provides tools to do just that. ILoadable is an interface which you can use to perform time-consuming operations. So, let's create an example class that implements it. It requires the load method that takes an operation handle as a parameter. The load operation is considered done when you called handle.markDone. So, for example, let's create a task to simulate some heavy async operation. Also, we can override the toString method so that there is an easy way to get some information about it. To test it, go to Unity and find your core controller. Open the script and change the getLoadables method so that it yields a few new example loadables. To see the results, let's also override the onLoadables progress method. For now, just log the content of the progress object. There is the current loadable, its index, the total number of loadables, and the flag that tells whether the operation is completed or not. Let's hit the play button and analyze what we see in the console. There are two messages for each loadables that we define. The first when it starts loading, and the other when it completes. And actually, it's everything we need to update a fully featured loading screen. As for how to get the loadables, there are a lot of options. We can create them with constructor, as we just did. Inject them directly or indirectly. Inject them as a dynamic collection, with sorted collections being especially cool. Use standard Unity ways, for example, serialized fields, or mix any or all the options together. The loadables defined in the core controller are loaded every time the scene is loaded. But if you need to load something permanent, you can do it too. Do you remember the core project context? Click Window, AlchemyBow.Core, Core Management, and use the window to locate it. If you'd like to learn how to initialize AlchemyBow.Core, check the first video in the series. The core project context is a component similar to the core controller, but it's attached to a prefab that is instantiated in the don't-destroy-on-load. So, you can use it to store and bind content shared between scenes. Let's open the script and add a few example loadables to its getLoadables method. This time, to see the results, we need to be able to change the scenes. Let's do that in the most trivial way. However, if you'd like to explore a more sophisticated method, check the documentation page for a cool and short example. So, open the core controller, add the update method, and invoke the change scene method when some button is down. Then, go back to Unity, ensure the scene is in the build settings, and finally, click the play button. During the first loading, there are loadables from the core project context and the core controller. However, during any next loading, there are only loadables from the core controller. Next, let's consider an example where scenes are completely different. We have several options. We can use the same controller, extend it, or create a new one. Let's try the last option. Start by creating a new scene. Then, open the core management window again and select core controllers. Click New Core Controller, update the fields as you like, and create. Now, click the Create Instance button and save the scene. So now, we have two different controllers that are able to implement completely different logic, but share the same project context, including loadables. Now, to fully understand the scopes and loading, let's go through the lifecycle of the framework and explore members which we can override. At the awake message, the core controller starts and invokes the onStarted method. You can override it to execute any early logic, such as activating a loading screen. It works similarly to the load method, accepting an operation handle as an argument. However, it's important to note that dependencies are not yet resolved, so it's not possible to depend on the injection at this stage. Next, the binding stage starts, and the following steps occur. If this is the first loading, the core project context is instantiated in the don't-destroy-on-load. The dependencies provided by its mono-installer list and install additional bindings method are bound and resolved in the global scope. Then, the global dependencies are copied to the current core controller and resolved together with its local dependencies. In the same way, as a result, all dependencies are resolved and the onBindingFinished method is called. Next, the loading stage starts and the following steps occur. The core controller waits for the delay specified in the preloading delay property. Then, loadables are collected from the core project context during the first loading and from the core controller every time. The onLoadables progress method is called twice for each loadable. The core controller waits for the specified post-loading delay time, as well as any previous unloading, to complete. And finally, the onLoadingFinish method is called. After the loading stage, we enter the working stage. This is where the actual gameplay occurs. In the next video, I will discuss how to use the framework to create stateful behaviors, which are an optional but very cool way to control what's happening on the scenes. The unloading stage begins when you call the changeScene method. First, the onSceneChangeStarted method is called, and then it's followed by the onKeepUnloading method, which uses the operation handle, so you can release any unmanaged resources in a smooth manner. That's it for this video. If you'd like me to continue the topic on how to implement a loading screen, just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Please like, subscribe, and if you can't wait, check the framework documentation page. All the links in the bio.